We've seen a recent popularity in the 369 method as a way to manifest what we want in a more streamlined way. Just Google this topic and you'll see over 9 million results. If you've never heard about this little jewel that can help manifest your destiny, you're in for a treat. We'll learn how to use it and how to customize it, what mistakes to avoid, and a couple of strategies you can use to supercharge your results. This podcast is all about helping you with your spiritual growth so you can overcome obstacles and manifest your destiny to crystallize all things good, basically to have success on life's journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. So let's get started. Hi there and welcome. My name is Remy, like Do Re Mi. I'm a best-selling author and creator of the Get Unstuck Revolution. I help extraordinary women just like you dissolve the obstacles in your path so you can bring success to you. Now let's get started with today's video. Okay, let me jump off the screen here and switch to my laptop. Whether you're on TikTok, YouTube, or even Cosmopolitan magazine, we've seen a recent popularity in the 369 method as a way to manifest what we want in a more streamlined way. Now, technically speaking, manifesting is the art of creating something tangible through positive thoughts, beliefs, and intentions while taking inspired action. With this 369 method, we're adding in numerology and the power that numbers carry in some of our spiritual practices. We're basically taking our thoughts and intentions and adding in a dose of energetic steroids to help our success come to fruition. Today's episode is for you if you wonder, how can I get more momentum with my manifestations? Is there a way to fast track my way out of a situation I'm currently in? And is this 369 method the best tool for manifesting, or is there something even better? All right, well, let's dig right in. We'll get straight to it. The 369 strategy is based on mathematics and the numerology of sacred numbers using the natural energetic connections within our universe. So let's look at the basic formula. I'll put this up on the screen for you. We want to use three separate and distinct affirmations or mantras for what we want to create. Of course, using creative and positive thoughts and words and inviting our ego thinking to go play someplace else for a while. We want to express our intentions 6 times a day. We want to spend 9 seconds imagining all the details we can, and we want to do this for 21 days. Now, that's the basic formula. In just a minute, I'll show you some variations, the mistakes to avoid, as well as a couple of strategies to supercharge this method. And as you'll see, this is really all about momentum. Now, before I learned about this method, my own strategy was similar but different. It started, quite a few years ago with a local business coach who recommended that we do an immersion weekend to focus on solving a particular challenge I was having. This immersion weekend sounded like a pretty good idea to me for this reason. I'm not a singer, but there was a time when I wanted to do a little karaoke performance and not embarrass the daylights out of myself. So I took singing lessons for an hour a week and I practiced about 30 minutes a day. That was my formula. I found that I wasn't improving, though. In fact, I wouldn't be caught dead on a stage because I still sounded like a prepubescent boy. So I changed the formula. I started practicing more and more each day. And for me, it wasn't 6 times a day for 9 seconds or anything like that. It was at about the 5 hour a day mark where I saw actual improvement in my voice. Now, at first, I thought this was a little obsessive, but then I remembered that Olympic athletes will often train for 3 to 6 hours a day. So I thought maybe 5 hours a day wasn't so crazy. So, back to the story about the immersion therapy with this business coach. I thought it was an idea worth trying to see what kind of results we might have because I saw what immersing myself in singing exercises did for me. But the thing is, physical training at 5 hours a day versus mental or psychological focus at 5 hours a day Well, they were completely different animals. I found it incredibly difficult to be buried in my mind for that long. So I got through the immersion therapy for my business, but honestly, I didn't see much result at all. Didn't really work for me. Well, fast forward a few years, and I had a new life challenge. Isn't that how life always works, right? I knew that I didn't want to do the immersion thing again, and I wondered, what if instead of immersion, I tried a momentum exercise? Because immersion is completely different than momentum, right? So I decided to just try this out. I just set my timer, and once an hour, I did a quick 6 minute meditation, focusing on where I wanted my life to move. It was still immersion in that I was in focus, but it was spread out at 6 minutes once an hour. Still immersion, but immersion with momentum. I did 6 minutes once an hour, focusing on different affirmations during that meditation time. Well, by 6 p.m. every day, I felt pretty saturated, but this was a strategy that worked for me and brought results. By connecting into my infinite self and connecting into a higher consciousness, I'd receive insights and downloads and new perspectives that I just wasn't finding otherwise. That bit of focus was powerful. So, when I first learned about this 369 method, I could see how it could work quite effectively just based on these other experiences. Okay, you can do your own research on the history of this 369 method, but I'd love to give you just the highlights. So let's talk about how this all came about. It all started with Tesla. Nikola Tesla, who you might know from Tesla electric cars, was an inventor. He worked for Thomas Edison and was promised $50,000 if he could make Edison's early attempts at electricity work. Well, it had design flaws, as you may remember, but Tesla invented the AC current, and well, Edison was slightly not interested, and so Tesla went on to sell it to Westinghouse. He also invented the Tesla coil, which was a way to bring wireless power for free to everyone. He was also responsible for the shadow graph, which is another name for an X ray. All in all, he held about 300 patents in engineering and science. But he was also obsessed with numbers and believed that the numbers 3, 6, and 9 were divine numbers, saying that they held the key to the entire universe. Now, this is part of vortex math, which is how patterns repeat themselves, and it's an area of math where he excelled. And some scientists have even said that these numbers represent a vector from our third dimension into the fourth dimension. And just like electricity, everything in the universe is a stream between polar sides, like a swinging pendulum. Or we might even think of or envision that number eight laid down on a flat surface. If you've ever seen something in the movement of that number eight, well, it's the symbol for infinity. But for Tesla, his obsession was that circles are 360 degrees, and the 3 plus 6 plus 0, well, that equals 9. And no matter how many times we divide a circle, it always adds up to a perfect 360. So 3, 6, and 9 are considered sacred numbers. They're indestructible. They hold a great significance in the universe, nature, and the human blueprint, and they can be used to speed up our manifestation process. Now, when we think of numerology, 3 represents our connection to the universe as well as our creative self expression. 6 represents our inner strength and harmony. And 9 represents our inner rebirth, as in letting go of what no longer serves us and transforming into who we are becoming. All right. Can we use these sacred patterns of numbers to turn our dreams into reality? Well, unlocking our hidden powers of manifestations is certainly an exciting topic. So, here's exactly how to use this strategy, and I'll put these steps back up on the screen for you. And here we go. Step 1, we want to use 3 separate and distinct affirmations or mantras for what we want to create. We might even want to choose some evocative, expressive, or vivid words in our affirmations. You know this about me. I love to use my thesaurus. So, as you write an affirmation, let's use the thesaurus to spice things up a little bit. This will automatically invoke our imagination. And as we look at different words, the corresponding feelings will also emerge. And then step 2, we want to express our affirmations or our mantras 6 times a day. Now, remember the story I told you earlier? I used to set my timer for once an hour, and I would just take a small break to focus. And by 6 p.m., I'd feel pretty well filled up. For me, it worked well to start at 11 a.m., but do whatever works for you. Like I said, this barely takes me 2 minutes, so this is very doable. And then step three, we want to spend 9 seconds imagining all the details we can. Now, I don't use a clock on this. I personally think it's distracting to zero in on exactly 9 seconds because it distracts me to where I'm thinking more about the 9 seconds instead of thinking of my vision. So for me, it's however long it takes to immerse myself in the imagination. Sometimes I enjoy seeing the details of my little movie, and other times a little snapshot is just fine. And over time, I've been able to hone this into 9 seconds without even thinking about it. But in the beginning, I just enjoyed immersing myself in the vision. So I encourage you to experiment with this because what's most important isn't necessarily the numerology. What's most important is getting into the vision as if it's already happening in present time. And then lastly is step four, and that's to do this for 21 days. Now, 21 days is typically the time it takes to groove in a new habit or a new thought or a new perspective. So for 21 days, we're doing three affirmations 6 times a day with a 9 second visualization each time. And we'll talk more about the flexibility of this formula here in just a minute. But right here, I want to mention something that I've talked about so many times before. If our energy and mindset are off, if our negative thoughts and emotions are prevalent, all the action in the world won't matter. The affirmations won't matter. The mantras we write won't matter. Redirecting our thoughts toward positive incomes will fall short. So I would like you to consider something about beliefs, empowering beliefs as well as disempowering beliefs. Because if we walk into this 369 exercise believing it will work, will be a completely different outcome than if we walk into it not believing it'll work, right? So let's look at beliefs for just a second. Now, one of the quickest ways when we think about our life situation, one of the quickest ways to change any situation in our life is to change our beliefs about it. If we believe we're stuck and can't get out of our situation, our belief about it and our thoughts will stick the situation to us, whatever situation we don't like. We get stuck. If we have consistent thoughts about how stuck we are, our thoughts inside of our head as we're feeling stuck, our own thoughts turn into affirmations, whether we realize it or not. But what's driving those thoughts? Well, it very likely could be an underlying belief based on some previous experience we've had. So, before doing this 369 method, it wouldn't hurt to spend a few minutes journaling what I believe is and flesh out any disempowering beliefs, as well as brainstorming some other more empowering beliefs like I deserve better, or I can figure this out, or things always get better. Now, one of my favorites was where I read, and for the life of me, I don't know where I read this, but the idea is that our higher consciousness, when we're in our highest consciousness, there is no time delay from a thought to its manifestation. Manifestation is instant in those higher levels of consciousness and up in the higher dimensions. It's only our human construct here in the 3D world that keeps this from being true in our reality, our disbelief, our resistance, our logical mind. But in those higher realms, in our higher consciousness, there is absolutely no delay at all. If we aren't getting what we want, it's because we haven't strengthened that muscle enough, that muscle of believing in the universal truths. So, one of the quickest ways to change our situation is to change our beliefs about it. And so that's why we want to open up to this concept of this 369 method. Here's my tip of the day. Whatever empowering beliefs we write down, be sure there are no counter thoughts, no contradiction at all, nothing to argue with. If we write down, I deserve better as a belief, and the ego argues that point, then keep tweaking the words until the right combination fleshes out. I found that doing this little exercise on our beliefs before doing the 369 method helps to clear the way. All right. So, just to review, we have these 4 steps. I'll put them back on the screen here. We want to use 3 separate and distinct affirmations or mantras for what we want to create. Next, we want to express our intentions 6 times a day. Next, we want to spend 9 seconds imagining all the details we can. And finally, we'll do this for 21 days. Now, I personally don't know that it's the numerology in this that's so powerful. The first time I tried this method, I could really feel the momentum grabbing hold. So I personally, it's just my opinion, think it's the momentum that makes this work so well, not necessarily the numbers. Not that I don't believe in numerology, because I do. It's like we say we want one thing and our vibration goes this direction, but then the rest of our day, our vibration goes that direction. So I think this 369 method has a lot to do with focusing our momentum, getting our vibration going in one direction. And if it harnesses some universal energies through numerology, so be it. Can't complain about that, right? Also, when we think of other modalities besides numerology, things like astrology or feng shui or violet light healing or whatever, none of these things will work if we're just walking around making stupid decisions, right? But I do think this 369 method is good for getting clarity, good for getting focus, because as we do it, we can feel if something just isn't well identified yet. And then we can tweak our affirmations. And I think it's especially good for gaining momentum in one solid direction as we get more and more clarity. So, the 369 numbers. I've seen a lot of variations on this. So, as you hear me say so often, do what works for you using any combination of this 369 theory or any combination of these numbers, is what I mean to say. You might try your first affirmation and say it 3 times, followed by a 9-second vision of a snapshot or a movie, and then move on to the next affirmation. Or you might try all 3 of your affirmations as one sequence, ending with 3 snapshots or movies, knowing that 3 times 3 equals 9. So you can mix it up and try some different combinations to see what works well for you. Now, for me, I like to hold a snapshot in my imagination as I go through each affirmation, and then I stitch each snapshot together so that I can play a 9-second movie after repeating all the affirmations. That's what works well for me. So the whole process takes me, literally 2 minutes. So this is something that I can easily do once an hour, 6 times a day. That's the combination that works best for me. And I'm curious, as you work with this and play with the numerology, I'm curious to know what ends up working best for you. Now, I've also seen a variation of writing affirmations 3 times in the morning, and then writing affirmations 6 times in the afternoon, and then writing affirmations 9 times at night. And that variation did not include any visualization. And for me, I feel like the visualization adds a little power to the process. But I also know that according to the NLP methodology, I am a visual. So visualizing comes very naturally for me. If it doesn't come naturally for you, it doesn't appear that this is an essential piece of this 369 method for others who have tried it. So leave it out. You might try that variation of just writing affirmations 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, 9 times at night. So my suggestion is to try this a couple different ways, see what resonates, what feels most powerful for you. And one way will probably feel like a perfect fit, and the others, well, they just might not be quite the perfect match. Now, as for the 21 days, I've also seen a lot of variations on this. I've seen 33 days playing up on the number 3. I've also seen 45 days playing up on the number 9, because 4 plus 5 in 45 equals 9. But for me, I don't like the idea of doing something for 45 days. I like shorter bursts of energy because it just feels more powerful. Speaking of which, be prepared that you might receive your manifestation in a shorter period of time. And then you'll have the option of starting a new 369 process with a new desire at that point. Now, one last thing. Some of us are fans of Esther Hicks, who is a predominant law of attraction expert. She channels a collective or a group of guides from the other side, and she has spoken of a 17-second rule. 17 seconds of pure thought is apparently an ignition point for attracting another thought of a similar vibration. And this also sets up momentum toward attracting what we want. And remember, from my own experience anyway, momentum is what I really felt the first time I did this 369 method. And so that's why I'm including this little piece about the 17 seconds right here. Now, she also advises that we need 4 pure thoughts of equal vibration to kickstart our manifestation process. So, 4 pure thoughts times 17 seconds, that would be 68 seconds total of pure thought without distractions and without any negative emotions. The idea is that until that 17-second mark, our thought vibrations can be scattered and maybe not have much power. But once they go beyond the 17 seconds, our thoughts can go out and activate a matching vibration. And then these positive thoughts begin to attract to one another and it gets the momentum kicked in. The longer we focus on a thought, the more powerful the vibration. So the 17 seconds might be something that you would like to incorporate. As an example, we could do a simple warm up meditation for 17 seconds that could extend to 68 seconds before we move into this 369 method. Could also be done afterwards. Our warm up could be as simple as saying, I'm clearing my mind right here, right now, and preparing to connect with the highest consciousness. As I let go of any distracting thoughts, I trust that a clear channel to the universe is being established, and so on and so on. It's just a little preparation before the 369 method. That would be one way to incorporate the 17 seconds to gain a little more momentum. All right. So that's it for the numerology side of things and how these numbers work together. So, what about the pitfalls? Well, the first thing I've seen as far as pitfalls go, or mistakes that people made, is that some people get too hung up on a specific result only to realize that their desire was ego driven or fear based. There's a difference between manifesting $10,000 because I have bills to pay and manifesting prosperity because it brings me joy. Fear versus joy, negative thoughts and panic and distress versus creativity and resilience. So, my suggestion is to feel your way through your desire. Does it feel like expansion or does it feel like fear? We want to stay in that expansion energy and not have any resistance at all on our manifestation. Now, the second pitfall I'm seeing is that we want to create momentum with our energy. While we don't want to be an extremist and go overboard or be too rigid, we do want to create energetic momentum. If we skip a day, we might lose momentum. Now, I've been able to do this 369 method in just a couple of minutes, so let's not allow physical world time to get in our way. And the third pitfall, while we're talking about time, is to realize that our manifestation may happen really fast. Don't get discouraged if that happens. I mean, you may think I'm crazy for saying this, but I remember years and years ago when I was in real estate, I had written an offer on a property Saturday morning, and I knew the listing agent was holding an open house that day, so I delivered the full price offer in person. And the listing agent looked down at the case of bottled water that she had just bought and looked at me puzzled and said, "But if we accept your offer and cancel this open house, what am I going to do with all this bottled water?" So let's keep our eye on the prize. If we get what we want earlier than expected, let's just show a little gratitude and move on to the next desire on our list. Now, Wayne Dyer talks about how our imagination is the greatest manifestation tool we have. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. I may be misquoting him here, but you get the idea. So, if we'd like to supercharge our efforts in manifesting, there are a couple of extra strategies that we can use to ramp up our imagination. One is story writing or scripting. This is where we write out short stories of the future we'd like to see, just a short paragraph. And by the way, this is also a good warm up exercise for our imagination before we begin the 369 method, just to bring in our focus before we sit down and work on our affirmations. So, another way to supercharge this process is doing a mind map or a bubble drawing if you have that sort of an engineering technical mind. We might sketch out 10 bubbles or circles on a piece of paper and write in 10 details into each bubble. For instance, if we're manifesting a new home, we might write down in one bubble, I love having a home with an awesome view. And in another bubble, we might write down, I love having a home that's peaceful and quiet. And somewhere else, we would write down, I love having a home with really big closets. We brainstorm out 10 details, and that can also help supercharge our imagination process. And another might be where we write on a page, "Oh, what a year it's been," and then fill in the details as if it's already happened. And now this uses a little bit of a different part of our imagination and can sometimes open up details we hadn't thought about. And of course, I always enjoy using vision cards, which is a smaller take on what we know as a vision board, except we can carry these index cards with us in the car or wherever we go, just one concept or one vision per card. Just one more way to empower our higher imagination as we prepare to use this 369 method. We're adding in numerology and the power that numbers carry in some of our spiritual practices when we manifest. We're basically taking our positive thoughts and intentions, tossing them up into some higher frequencies, and adding in a dose of energetic steroids to help our success come to fruition. All right. As we empower ourselves towards self expression and who we are at our core without the negative thoughts and emotions that can drain us, we're choosing a higher frequency, higher and better thoughts, because our choice of frequency, our choice of more positive emotions, changes the course of our journey. This 369 method can be hugely impactful on our journey. So, reflecting back on everything we covered today, how can you apply what you've learned? Do you feel like you can manifest in a more streamlined way? Okay. So, what were your three favorite takeaways? I think for me, my favorite takeaways are one, this is really about about momentum more than using the power of numerology, at least for me. And I'm curious to know whether you have the same experience. I think my second favorite takeaway is that one of the quickest ways to change our situation is to change our beliefs about it. This 369 method can really help groove in new and more empowering beliefs. And I think my third favorite is that imagination is our greatest manifestation tool. So those are my favorite takeaways, and I'd love to hear about yours. If you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment right there. If you're like most of my audience, you're on my website at unlockyourhiddenpower.com, you can leave a comment there as well. I hope this helps you as you're using the powers of alchemy to transform challenges and obstacles into positive new successes. This podcast is all about helping you have success on your spiritual growth journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. If you still can't get your head around what's got you stuck in life or in business, you can tell me about it. You can send me a question to questions at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. You may not know that you can get a free copy of my latest book at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. You'll discover the 22 undeniable laws of alchemy and how to take a wrecking ball to doubt, worries, frustration, and indecision so that your challenges evaporate right before your eyes. You can get your instant download at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. Well, thanks for joining me today, and I'm wishing you a life filled with all the alchemy you need to bring success to you. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who's feeling stuck, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.